Welcome to another classic bike collector video, and today we've been invited down by Andy Barrett. He's kindly invited us along to see what's inside his workshop behind us, and there's some really special bikes in there. Plus we'll go for a ride out, and we'll also see some of the amazing trophies and other ephemera that Andy's collected or been handed down over the years from his family. And you'll see in front of us we've got this Velocette. Now this is a Velocette that the museum, National Motorcycle Museum, have lent to the channel. We've been riding it around for the last few weeks, and it's a Mark I KSS, a 1935 Velocette. And the reason we've bought this Velocette is because, as we're about to find out, Andy has a strong link and passion for all things Velocette, and that's the reason we're going to go and look in your workshop.
I'm glad you could finally make it down, so should we take a look?
Yeah, let's go in.
Quickly, before we head in, we want to say a quick thank you to Bikesure for being one of the sponsors of this video production. Bikesure has been in business now for over 30 years. As a specialist insurance broker, they treat every customer as an individual, and no matter what you ride, they'll have a policy to suit you. From classic bikes to modern and pretty much everything else. We've put a link to them in the video's description if you'd like to get a quote.
Okay, so inside Andy's incredible workshop, and mentioned there at the beginning, Velocettes are your passion, Andy, and there's a very strong link for you to Velocette, isn't
Yeah, so actually the name behind me, which is my grandfather, so Ralph Seymour, was kind of synonymous with Velocette from racing in the 40s up until he passed away in 94. He raced in the TT from 46 to 52 on his Velocette, which he won a couple of replicas on, and then started his own business in 1960, tuning, repairing and restoring Velocettes. So yeah, the whole name behind me. So he's my granddad, but I call him Ralph because he hated being called granddad because he's old. And then yeah, so I have my little wall of fame basically in my garage. Starting from the fantastic sign written for our workshop was fantastic, and then pictures of my granddad with a client of his who was an ex-TT sidecar rider, which Ralph apparently would devise a course here in my hometown of going around left-hand bends, so he would practice and get used to turning instead of being on a sidecar all the time. And then a picture the Dutch club gave us after Mum died, which is a fantastic picture of her as she would have been. One of the iconic riders for Velocette was Stanley Woods, really revolutionised the frame and really kept him going. Him there, and on number 1 as well. And you got Goodman there behind him as well.
Goodman being the family that ran Velocette and owned Velocette at the time, wasn't it? Because it was quite a small factory in comparison to BSA, Norton, Triumph. These
really
were small, hand-built, almost low-number bikes, weren't they?
Yeah, and family-owned as well. I mean, between Eugene and Percy, and their father, Johan Goodman, was actually the founder, changed his name to John Goodman after 1904, I believe, to make it more English. And then keep on going. I mean, pictures like with the red Matisse here, that came 19th in the senior TT in 73 with Fred Walton riding it, which is one of the family's greatest achievements, I think, up against the might of the Honda, Suzuki, Yamaha, the big boys. We came 19th in the senior TT on a prepared bike in a very small workshop here in my hometown. It's an iconic bike, and just pictures of Ralph sat with his replica in 51.
So that's him there on the Isle of Man?
Yeah, that's him on the Isle of Man with his friends there. And the replicas, which we'll see later on, which I still have, just popped on the Castrol can.
So that's, I love it. And that's a Velocette then that he would have prepared, that he bought from Velocette.
He bought brand new.
He's tuned it and...
I mean, he bought it brand new in 1939.
Right.
6 weeks before the Second World War started. I still have the letters from the factory saying it'll be ready for the Donington Hall Bank Holiday race. And then 6 weeks, the war started. And actually, we're talking about the bike. The bike is just there. That's
it?
That is the bike there. That is the original
incredible.
Mark 8 from 1939.
And the Mark 8 being, so the bike that we've seen from the museum there is a Mark I KSS overhead cam. And Velocette were just so successful with that 350 overhead cam machine, and they really refined it to the Mark 8 version in terms of racing, wasn't it?
Yes.
So this was the ultimate incarnation.
It was. This is like the final development. They didn't do anything after this. There was actually have a drawing for a Mark 9, but just a flywheel design. That's as far as they got. But the Mark 8 was the evolution and the ultimate bike you could buy, because not only having the swinging arm, which is kind of the first around to do it, and you could buy it over the counter, just the engine was fantastic and the frame was lightened, and it was a good bike to have. And they carried on development until 1950. That was the last time they really sold them.
And very successful. Twice world champions.
Yeah, Freddie Frith, 49, 50.
It's incredible.
And what a great bike. And that's the actual, the tank is a new tank made by Peter Kite back in the 80s, which was a copy of the one that the works gave Ralph. They had a bigger tank for the Isle of Man to keep him going, less pit stops. So the frame has been modified. You can't see it, obviously, the tank. But there's 2 lugs here instead of being the normal bits down here to keep the tank going.
So proper bit of kit with some proper history there. So
Yeah,
that's been around the course, and you're putting this one back together.
Yeah,
then,
that's a long-term project. That's going to take a lot of money to do and time. But I'm very excited because it's a big piece of my family history. That
I mean that makes it super special. Doesn't it?
And then eventually the engine, Ralph would move on to the Matisse frame, which actually is this one here.
Oh, so this is a Rickman frame machine.
Yeah. Devised in 1966. So effectively, Ralph, there's 3 iterations. It was for the engine. It was from the original Mark 8, which is over there we just seen. Then the frame just behind the bike here. That was the second one we did. And then eventually, when Rickman Brothers brought these out, Ralph found this and said, right, this is what we're going to do. So he actually built this whole bike in 6 weeks.
Wow. So you buy the frame as like a kit, don't you, from Rickman? That's it. And then you could put whatever engine you wanted.
But there was no lugs or anything. So Ralph had to work out everything, how to do it. And there's him and Vern Wallace and a couple other guys in the shop at the time. This was 66, so Ralph had been working 6 years. So the shop was still quite small. And the reason they did it was because Vern, one of the people working for Ralph, he actually didn't get an entry for the junior. So Ralph said, right, let's do something about this. And created this. So this is the very first Rickman Velocette Matisse bike that Ralph ever made.
Wow.
And there's about 16 race versions made, I think, 14 or 16. There's no real official record. And then 6 road-going bikes.
Okay.
And I saw the very first one the other day, actually, nearby, which is it's amazing to see. But this is the iteration that this is how it started, with starting from the works front brake, which is a genuine from the factory 1952.
That's really trick, isn't it?
You
say that's magnesium.
Magnesium piece of kit, yeah. And then sadly can't see it on the other side, but it's a magnesium 5-speed gearbox on here as well, which came directly from Bertie Goodman.
Wow.
And the engine is, was tuned as high as it can be to race in this thing, and a real mean piece of kit.
That is incredible. But then just underneath it, we can't ignore this.
Yeah, this is the other market I have. So I've used this one at Goodwood's, Cop Hill, and other local events, and it's actually road registered. So I use it on the road quite a bit with the open megaphone, which we count at 120 decibels.
So you can hear you before you see you, and you're going to fly by pretty quick on this.
Yeah, I've done it. And it's such a great bike to ride, and you get so many attention from it, good and bad.
So this is so it's a Mark 8. So this is sort of pretty much like the ones we were saying earlier. Freddie Frith would have won World Championship.
Exactly the same. I mean,
it's sort of setup.
Yeah, exactly the same. I mean, realistically, the only slight difference will be the front brake, which is a copy of the works, which are over there, and the rear suspension, which on the originals would have Oleomatics, which are done by air. So there's 5 psi in there just to get it going, which were terrible. So we put some modern-ish springs on them. And generally, it's kind of, I mean, the mudguard's different, and the rear seat would have been air-powered as well. They just have air-powered seats.
Yeah.
Generally, it's exactly the same. And this is what I had this on the front cover of Classic Bike about 3 years ago, which is a really special moment for me. It's 30 under 30, I think it was. And there's a picture of me on the bike on the front cover. And what people don't really know is I had blown the engine up then. The crank pin is split in half.
Oh, no.
So during lockdown, a friend fixed it for me. It took him about 100 hours to rebuild the engine for me.
Wow.
And I've been very careful ever since.
Captain Sensible. And it is an incredible bit of kit. And it's when you stand around it here, I didn't realise, for a 350, the size of the barrel and the head is immense. So it's the cooling that it's trying to stick in there is incredible.
It's a lot of work. I mean, the barrel actually is a works item. The standard one you can see on over there.
Oh yeah.
They are thinner. So the works one's about 10, 11 inches. The heads are exactly the same. The Mark 7 had an 11-inch head. The Mark 8 had a 10-inch head, and that was really the difference between the two. I mean, there wasn't a huge amount of difference between them. There's only about 38 or 39 Mark 7s made, and they went straight into development of this one. So the engine-wise, there's not a huge difference, but they're just absolutely tanks.
So we've got engines all over the place down here. Then what are these?
Everywhere you look, there's always bits around. But so I've got a rigid Mack engine just there, which I haven't touched since the workshop days, about 10, 12 years ago. And then I've got a Venom engine next to it, which I rebuilt last year. I had a lot of help with that, and that's one of the first engines I ever rebuilt. Had a lot of help with the Bicester Heritage Academy teaching me how to do things. So that's the very first one I've done.
That's a 500.
It is. It started life as a Viper, but it's been rebuilt to a 500. So it's kind of ready to go. And then on the bench, we have the Thruxton engine and gearbox I've been rebuilding, which was actually my late godfather's engine. So he used to race with my grandfather, Ralph, and this was the engine he used. It hadn't been used since 1970, I think it was. So it's full of castrol. I had to have it all vapor blasted and cleaned out because it was just covered in castrol art.
Gunked up, yeah.
So I learned how to engine balance and everything, went through it, and I've just been doing engine turning, rebuilding it slowly but surely when work permits and everything. And then I've done the gearbox as well. So that's the insides of the gearbox ready to go. Just got to pop the plates on and then it's all done. And then the last engine is a very special engine in terms of it's one of one. It's a prototype side valve 350 engine, the factory produced with Phil Irving, who you know for your Vincent connections.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Phil Irving came across, worked at Vincent briefly, well, for quite a while, and also at Velocettes.
So then popped across to us. Yeah, and then so they only made one of these because it was so gutless. It was going to be like a touring, every man's kind of bike. Velocette had this thing about every man, they're trying to do it, and this is one of the engines for it. So it's been here ever since. And I think eventually, when I can get around to it, is to buy a GTP frame and put it in there and get a running bike. Cool. Have the only one around.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's really the bench. And then just as you keep walking around, there's the next project I'm working on,
rolling
which is
chassis here. Then
which I got a really cool picture of my mum's. Actually, she was 18 years old then, pushing the Matisse round into the paddock. So my mum and my grandmother and Ralph wouldn't allow her to go into the paddock and push a bike in the scrutineering until she was 18.
Right.
So that was literally the first time.
That was the day. Yeah,
it is
the moment.
So there's a really cool picture, and so it's nice having that around. And this will be another iteration. This is the stamp number 8. So this is the 8th one they've made. I'm very fortunate the lugs are already done, so it's just making the plates for it and then just building up. So I think eventually one of the engines over here will go into
it. So your 500 engine could go in there.
Yeah, just pop in there. And it's a few jobs. I've got to make an oil tank for it, sort out a new top yoke, put a tyre on it, and I just need time. Which every project knows you always need more time. But it's a cool thing to keep motivated. I've got plenty of pictures of the Imperial race bikes that I really want to channel and make it look like, and it's called Scarlet because she'll be red in a very deep Ferrari colour.
Brilliant.
Every bike has a name in here, so this is Scarlet. So this thing here, the engine blew up last year, which I found out was a magneto problem, which caught up. So I took apart the engine for no reason, really. So now I'm rebuilding that, and that should be done by the end of the year. And then all my Velocette spares are here, and all my bags and all my barber jackets and stuff like that. So I've got heads, magnetos, barrels, spare parts. I've got a Rita ignition system for a Lucas crankcase up there, and Mark 8 stuff. And I try and keep it as organised as possible.
Everything you need to keep them going and rebuild and even future projects.
Memorabilia as well. Like my Ralph used to race in Brooklyn, so I still have his original BMCRC thing. I have the trophy up in my office. I'm very fortunate I have a lot of the memorabilia that Ralph kept.
Oh, that's incredible.
All the spare, my lathe and all the engine rebuilds I can do and the tools and everything. I'm very fortunate to have it all around with me still.
Yeah. No, what a great hobby to have. And another engine,
that's the MSS engine. So I'm just about to finish that off. That's a day's work and it should be done. I'm missing a few bits, but it won't take too long to do. And yeah, that's another project over and done with.
Fantastic. And what?
So
we've got some bits here.
Yeah, I'm full up here. It's all memorabilia again. So you have all the pit attendants they would have when Ralph was racing with the teams. You have the original race plates from 1946. So when his first year in the Manx was 1946, he was actually the first in the junior in 46 to go down the hill. So his first time on the island, he was number 1. And yeah. I think Nan told me he was terrified.
So it's the bottom one, isn't it? Just point to it.
This one here. Yeah. Got those ones. So yeah, I kept everything as much as I could. When we had the shop, which is this beautiful rambling building, there was so much stuff in there that I try to keep as much of my family history because I haven't really got much. So I try to keep as much as I could. Like even the Brooklyn's a little bit over there and all the medallions and just as much as I could keep and have it on display. It's just what I try and do.
Oh, they are superb and they're real pieces of history. And then like I said, when it's family history, that's just
it's more important.
It's really special.
I'm very fortunate to have this as family history. It's a really big part of my life, and to keep it going, and and try and move it on to the younger generations, and try and inspire the younger kids. It's really what I try and do the most.
Yeah. So you ride these bikes, you take them out, don't you? You go to events and
shows. I did Goodwoods, and just trying to get out as much as I can, and just talk to people and show kids that bikes aren't terrifying and how to work on things, and just getting people back to using their hands again, and just actually showcasing that it's not hard. It's just how to do it properly and to do it safely.
So we're going to go out for a ride shortly, and this is the bike you're going to take.
It is, yeah. So this is the Velocette Thruxton that my Ralph made back in the 80s. It was one of the production race bikes we had. So generally a stock item, but a typical Ralph was breathed on quite a bit. So the tank is aluminium, the push rod being aluminium, they did it one piece for the Thruxton, but this is a finned one like the Ducati Mach 3s. The mudguard stays a little bit different. They were sort of aluminium again. even down to things like the dynamo being the cover here, aluminium.
yeah.
Just the story goes that they put something there because it'd be a split in the crankcase, but it's also aesthetically pleasing. So it's generally a stock item. It's just the whole bike is stock, but it's been breathed on in different ways. Even in the engine, it is a stock engine, but there's the rocker return springs inside, which instead of being able to adjust the tappets and everything properly, they'll be locked in place. So during a race, they couldn't move, which is fantastic until you use it too much and it locks in place and there's no movement. So they will not move at all, and then they wear out quicker.
So it's taking the factory Clubman's racer and just making it that bit better, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, effectively, yeah. And it's typical Ralphisms and just making it as light and as aluminium as possible.
Well, it all helps,
It does, yeah. I mean, that's what Francis Burt used to do. He would try and save his weight in every way possible because that makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
And you know, even with the fairing, it's such a great looking bike. You know, I love riding this thing. It's fast, it's nimble, it's a good looking machine, and you know, it's got a can on the end because it's got a megaphone, so I have to try and keep it quieter because it actually is louder than the Mark 8, and it's more of a horrible bark than the Mark 8's got this beautiful megaphone sound to it, but this is a really piercing sound. But yeah, when you get to hear it on the road, you'll understand.
Alloy rims were sort of standard, weren't they? But these look different.
Yep, so scarved out rims on hubs on both the front and rear based on the Mark 8s. They will have them, again, weight saving.
Shaving a little bit off, a few grams here and there.
It's all the thing, and same with the oil tank, being an extra large oil tank because we all know British bikes like to leak oil. So hence why the bigger oil tank. Even having the anodized engine and gearbox, apparently it was designed, it would help in get rid of the heat quicker. That's why it's all anodized.
So that's why it's painted black or anodized black.
Same with the even the engine plates, the rear, the gearbox and the front, they're all aluminium. Again, saving that weight, trying to get everything down.
I did actually have a Thruxton for a little while in the collection, and it was a stunning bike, and it did handle really well. And but what I liked about the one we had, and what I like about this, is it's got the shorter seat.
That's actually a special Seymour thing as well.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so a guy called Les Thompson, who used to work for us, devised this seat. So you can actually still buy it from RK Ladesons. You can ask them for a Seymour seat, and that's what they provide.
Oh, that looks good as well.
Yeah, it's a good look. The dual seat was great, but it just didn't really suit the look of it in the Cafe Racer ideal, whereas this is more proper racing.
Well, look forward to hearing this and seeing it, and I'll be following you on the old 30s bike, hopefully, trying to keep up in a bit. But before we do that, let's check out some of the trophies and memorabilia that you've got. It'd be great to see that. Some amazing looking trophies, photos and scrapbook here that we can look at then. Trophies.
Yeah, so this is the original. This is the replica Ralph won back in '52. You know, this is what he wanted to do when he went to the island. He wanted to win a replica. That was his goal, and this is it. This is the original replica for it. You know, he came in that year, I think 35th. So it wasn't spectacular, but it was pretty good still.
But he made it round in one piece.
Yeah, he didn't
and he was competing against the big boys.
Yeah, which is amazing. And then that was when he went to the Manx Grand Prix. That was his Manx Grand Prix there from '48. He came 12th that year, which is pretty good going. In his own prepared bike. And then before the Isle of Man, everything, he was 21 years old. He actually won this little trophy here at Brooklands.
Genuine Brooklands trophy?
Yeah, genuine Brooklands trophy with a genuine break from myself. And I'm very lucky. My Ralph was actually a photographer, so he was always into taking pictures and trying to showcase what he was doing. And things like, you know, I'm very fortunate he has pictures of him just before he's going taking out.
Then,
yeah, it's him there with the helmet, which we have in my garage still. You know, and that's probably, I think, 81, so he would have been 51 or 52 then. And then the last time I went to the island was 1993, so that's him there with Bernard Gueron, who was a French national champion in 52, and that's with the Mark 8 and the Matisse.
So the two bikes that were in the garage?
Two bikes were in there, there were the same two bikes there. That's actually when they won the 1993 Southern 100 Classic.
Wow.
So yeah.
Still seriously competitive now.
Yeah, still. I mean, Bernard was a fantastic rider. He was a really, really hard but really good rider. We were lucky, like Bernard and the guy called Fred Walton, who was an amazing, amazing human being. Ralph picked some very good riders. They were good people. So, you know, we're still in contact today.
That's fabulous. And then this.
Yeah, this is a beautiful piece of, what a throwback to that time.
This is.
And it kind of showcases what Ralph's like as a human being, because it's so immaculately done. And everything's cut perfectly. All these cuttings out from the motorcycle, the green and the blue, and just, I mean, look at all this engine detail shots that you never see today. You know, this is such an iconic.
So this is him cataloguing what he finds of interest in the magazines at the time, pre-war.
All pre-war.
As a young man.
Yeah, and just cutting it out perfectly. I mean, just everything is so square, so no edges, no rough edges. Everything is immaculate. Even things like detailing about the handlebars. You know, all these special
so it's just
engines
learning and interest, and these are all race engines and really special bits of kit, aren't they?
You can tell racing was a big part of his life.
Yeah,
When he was every scrap and every bit in his book is all about racing. There's nothing more to it, and just you keep going through it, and I mean,
look at these
streamlined. I mean,
world speed record bikes, and
the Auto Union badge and stuff like that. And I've never seen his bike before until I saw this, and with BMW as well. I mean, imagine seeing this in that time period. It's something out of Futurama. You would never imagine
this is the 1930s, or when around that time. Oh, look at it!
It's like a Star Wars trooper. Look at the helmet. I mean, that's where Star Wars got their idea from.
But there was so much development and advancement in engineering at the time, wasn't there? It was just non-stop. Oh, what an incredible thing!
It's just going through, even cutting the head up. I mean, it's just little details like that, and going through this and seeing they're just beautiful pictures and real throwback to that time period of racing. And it'd be amazing to step back in a time machine and see what it was like in that era. Everyone's worst nightmare is going downhill with a slippy road on nice thin British tyres. My favourite part of the day. And gravel, don't forget the gravel. Gravel. As well, it's good. Keep it on the Velocettes, just do his res up on the hills. People can tuck their drop out of that, it's always helpful.